It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Victory! A happy edition of Rico Brogna. Isn't that nice? Didn't feel like it was going to be a happy edition of the Rico Brogna. But welcome into an instant reaction, episode 483, as the Mets even up the Subway Series against the New York Yankees with a very exciting, a breathtaking 3-2 victory at Yankee Stadium. I was not at the game. I spent my Saturday afternoon with my boys watching the game outside on a beautiful, gorgeous May afternoon. So for those that were in the ballpark, that is, forget the result for a second, that is perfect weather. And because we rarely have 1 o'clock Saturday games anymore, in fact, we never have 1 o'clock Saturday games, if you're a Met fan at least, cherish that. And cherish the fact that despite there being a lot of negatives that we will probably go through at some point on today's Rico, the New York Mets survive. And they even up this series, and the worst case scenario is losing 2 out of 3 and not the dreaded sweep at the hands of the New York Yankees. But let me start with a positive. Let me start with the number one thing that jumps out at me when consuming this game, when finishing this game, and the number one thing that, in my opinion, should excite you as a Met fan. Because there's a lot of things we'll talk about that you're concerned about. The lack of a big hit. Carlos Mendoza's managing in terms of how he handled Griffin Canning. Let us start with the closer. Because this closer, much maligned in his many years here, there have been ups, there have been downs. And so far in 2025, as we sit here on May 17th, when the Mets beat the Yankees in Game 2 of this series, Edwin Diaz has not blown a save. Has Edwin Diaz been perfect? No. Has Edwin Diaz put us on some roller coaster rides? Absolutely. Has Edwin Diaz given us indigestion? Of course. But Edwin Diaz, every time he's come into a game with a lead, he has secured it. And very rarely in the history of baseball are you going to get to a full season in which your closer doesn't have a hiccup. There's one or two that jump out at you. Brad Lidge with the Philadelphia Phillies in 2008. But even the best of them, they're going to have hiccups. And while I still expect that Edwin Diaz will have his hiccup, he hasn't had one yet. And he didn't have one today. Because this game, the situation this team is in, back-to-back losses, the Subway Series, the frustrations continue of not being able to get that massive hit, leaving guys thrown out at the plate, all the little negatives that would have piled up and made this a brutal loss, a top 5, top 10 season loss. Edwin Diaz avoided by coming in and facing 3 pretty damn good hitters, including the best hitter on the planet, and striking his ass out. So for all the complaints, for all the bitching, for all the whining, for all the, I'm talking to you, Hoff, I'll take Devin Williams over Edwin Diaz. They don't need Edwin Diaz. You're full of it. They need Edwin Diaz. They have Edwin Diaz. And to me, before we get to anything else about this game, Edwin Diaz, strikeout Austin Wells, weak pop-up of Ben Rice, and then he struck out the modern-day Babe Ruth. Our closer, your closer, the closer.
I will say the first thing I tweeted after this game was over was I was wrong. Edwin Diaz is the best closer in New York. End of story, period, stop. You were right. 10 of 10. He looked amazing. When you pitched that way to Aaron Judge, the guy that could basically, and I got to be honest, it wasn't just Edwin Diaz today. It felt like the Mets figured something out with Aaron Judge. So kudos to everybody in that pitching staff.
Yes. So my message to Carlos Mendoza when he was on with Evan and Tiki, if you missed my regular radio show, when I talked to Mendy, I begged him, I pleaded with him, don't face Aaron Judge. And outside of the walk in the 3rd inning of Game 1, they've gone after Aaron Judge. He has ignored me. And at least in this game, Game 2 of the series, fly out to right, not deep, by the way, just a regular fly out to right, a strikeout, a ground out to 3rd, and then 2 more strikeouts. They hold Aaron Judge to a very rare 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. So you're right. It wasn't just Edwin Diaz to end the game. It was the entire Met pitching staff attacking Aaron Judge and getting Aaron Judge out. Look, let me just say this about Diaz before we move on to the other things. He's probably going to blow a save. There is going to be a Rico Brogna, probably an instant reaction because we'll all be pissed off, in which he blows a save. He's not going to be perfect. What I always look at with blown saves is timing and what happens in the game. Like, is it a complete blown save in which you have a 2-run lead, you give up 3 and the game is over? Is it a blown save where you keep it tied and then the team can rally and win anyway? And also the timing of it. There are certain blown saves that are going to sting worse than others. There are certain implosions that are going to sting worse than others. And I think most of us would agree this game, on a 2-game losing streak, game 2 of the Subway Series, a very frustrating game throughout, which we're about to get to, that would have been a bad one. And instead, Edwin Diaz gets the job done. So kudos to him. That's number one. Number 2, let's get to Griffin Canning, who I thought threw a hell of a game. He retired the first 7 guys. I'd say he made a mistake to DJ LeMahieu, and I don't want to come across like I'm whining about Yankee Stadium because I'm not. I like Yankee Stadium, and it is what it is. Every ballpark is different, and every ballpark is unique. But Griffin Canning gave up a fly ball to right field. So all I'm saying is I'm not complaining. I'm assessing the performance. And if I'm assessing Griffin Canning's performance, I can't kill him for giving up a solo fly out to right field that somehow nestled into the first row of the right field seats. Outside of that, Griffin Canning continues to be marvelous. And we mentioned a few seconds ago about the approach against Aaron Judge. Got ahead of him in the first inning. I think he threw 2 straight fastballs to him. He was very heavy on his fastball early in this game and finally got him to fly out. He struck him out in the 3rd. He got him to ground out in the 5th. And when he got him to ground out in the 5th, that was the biggest spot of them all, because the one kind of real tricky spot Canning found himself in was that 5th inning when he walked JC Escara to start off the inning and gave up the base hit to DJ, who had a hell of a game. I mean, DJ LeMahieu was probably the best player on the field when you think about his defense, the fact he had 2 hits, and even the line out that he made, which scared the crap out of all of us. He hit over 100 miles per hour. But he puts the first 2 guys on in the 5th inning. And right then and there, I think Aaron Boone helped us out, because not that I'm aware of Yorbit Vivas's bunting history. I'm not. But with 2 on and nobody out, and you are the 9th place hitter, you're still trying to prove yourself as a major league hitter. I've got Rice. I got Judge. I got a red-hot Bellinger now. I got Goldie coming up. I just know as the opponent, I didn't want Vivas to bunt. 2nd and 3rd, nobody out with Ben Rice coming up. I didn't feel good about it. Quite frankly, I figured Rice at the minimum is going to drive him in on a sacrifice fly. So Vivas going after, or Vivas not bunting, I thought was a huge break for us as Met fans. And Canning responded because he struck him out. And that was the inning where he was tested the most. He got Ben Rice out, even though he hit the ball pretty well to left field, and he got Aaron Judge out. And that's why we come to the Mendy decision-making of the 6th inning. Griffin Canning has had a wonderful season. Unlike Tyler McGill, he is not threatening to fall out of the rotation. But we're learning about Griffin Canning. And one of the things I feel pretty comfortable about with him is, as effective as he's been, as good as his ERA has been, he's a 5-inning pitcher. And so while I'm not Captain Hook, I look at certain guys differently. There are certain pitchers in a spot like this where I would blindly say, start the 6th inning, I've got no problem, and I'm not even going to have anybody warming up. But in the case of Griffin Canning, I think very differently. So here's how I would have managed things. He gets through the 5th inning the way we talked about. Ben Rice flies out, Judge grounds out. He is at 81 pitches through 5 innings. At this point, the Mets have a 2-1 lead. They scored those 2 runs in the 4th inning on the RBI single by Pete Alonso and the sacrifice fly by Mark Vientos that I thought for a second off the bat was going to get out. So they're nursing a 2-1 lead. He just fought through the 5th inning. His pitch counts at 81. I was cool letting him start the 6th inning. But my attitude, and I've said this a lot about Canning so far this season, was I'd go batter by batter. I let him start the 6th. Let me see what he can do. He gives up a base hit. I take him out. He gets the first guy out. I'll keep him in. Unfortunately, he gave up a bomb to Cody Bellinger. This is where I think Carlos Mendoza got very, very lucky, because at that point, I'm done. At that point, forget the pitch count, because, again, we overrate the pitch counts, good and bad. You don't have to stay in a game because your pitch count's 81. Sometimes you got to make the right decision. When he gives up the home run to Bellinger, I want him out of the game. Mendy sticks with him. And I think part of the reason he stuck with him is because the day before, Tyler McGill was handing it to the bullpen in the third inning. So sometimes one game kind of leads into another. And he got away with it because after he gets Goldie out, another really good play by Brett Beatty, whose defense at third base was Brooks Robinson-like. Dominguez gets a hit. Volpe gets a hit. I would have had him out 3 batters earlier. He gives up the base hit to Dominguez. I'd have him out. And then finally, Mendy says, all right, I'm going to take him out. I think it was 3 batters too long. And luckily, and this is where he got bailed out by 2 things. He got bailed out by the odd umpire's interference, which, I mean, this home plate umpire, Jean, Domingo Jean, whoever he is, multiple times was getting in the way of catchers. But it was a break because that double steal would have been effective whether there was interference or not. But Huascar Brazoban comes in and very calmly gets Escara and LeMahieu out, and another spot where if Boone wanted to be aggressive, he could have pinch hit for JC Escara right there and got to Grisham or Wells. But I get it. Day game after night game. It's only the 6th inning. We talked about this with Mendy the other day about when is it too early to pinch hit. But another just brilliant job by Huascar Brazoban coming in and getting multiple ground outs to get out of that inning. But I think he bailed Carlos Mendoza out. I did not like how long Griffin Canning stayed in this game. With that said, Griffin Canning, tremendous performance. We are now in late May. Basically, the next time he makes a start will be late May. We are approaching Memorial Day weekend, and this guy continues to be tremendous. 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, and he does it against the Yankee lineup, a Yankee lineup that came into this game averaging 5.82 runs per game. And he got Aaron Judge out 3 times. How many starting pitchers this season? Literally, look it up. I don't know the answer. How many starting pitchers this season has gotten Aaron Judge out 3 times? Griffin Canning was able to do it. So outstanding start by Griffin Canning. As far as the offense is concerned, it really feels like it's the same thing. And I'm confident it's going to change at some point. But the missed opportunities, the lack of a big hit. Over the first 3 innings, they couldn't do anything against Clark Schmidt. But that 4th inning was such a golden opportunity when he walks Francisco Lindor on 4 pitches and Soto rips a base hit and Pete Alonso rips a base hit, which is great to see because Pete has been slumping. And I think another 0 for 4 would have brought out even me ripping Pete for his recent struggles because May has not been very kind to him. But he comes up with the RBI single. And after Vientos just misses a 3-run home run, and the Mets get a run, let's realize how the Mets got that run. The Mets got that second run because Juan Soto stole third base. So this series thus far for Soto has been relatively quiet. 1 for 4 with a walk in game 2, 0 for 2 with 3 walks in game 1. So he's 1 for 6 with 4 walks. Not very impactful in terms of driving runs in. But sometimes it is the little things. And Soto stealing third base in the 4th inning directly led to a run. That run is not scoring if it wasn't for the stolen base. Because Vientos' sacrifice fly doesn't happen. Instead of 1st and 3rd with 1 out, it's 1st and 2nd and 1 out. So major credit to Soto for being alert and stealing third base all over Clark Schmidt. But then Schmidt loses the strike zone. He walks McNeil. He walks Torrens. And Brett Beatty just missed one. He attacked the first pitch, which I know drives you nuts off, but he just missed hitting what would have been a back-breaking grand slam against Clark Schmidt. Just missed. But it was a missed opportunity. You got Clark Schmidt putting the first 3 guys on base. You got Clark Schmidt walking back-to-back guys, 2 batters after he puts the first 3 guys on base, and you only end up with 2 runs. That should have been a big inning. It turns out not to be. The other big opportunity that was missed was the 7th inning, and it really comes down to the aggressive base running. You get a leadoff base hit by Luis Torrens. Beatty grounds out in the force out, which really should have been a double play, but it was so slowly developed by DJ LeMahieu at second base, the one, I guess, faux pas he had in this game. And Tyrone Taylor rips that double up the alley. And as that ball is going up the alley, my brain is telling me, you know what? As much as this team has struggled with runners in scoring position, let's not get nuts. Stop at third, Second and third one out, I'm going to take my chances with Lindor and Soto. As I see Beatty rounding third, I put my head in my hands. I'm like, please, for the love of, you cannot have this guy thrown out at the plate. You can't have this happen. And he was. Great execution by the Yankees. Give him credit. Cody Bellinger to Anthony Volpe to JC Escarra. And I guess that's where you argue it's the right send. If it isn't brilliantly executed, 8-6-2, they don't get the out. And I get that, and I respect that, but I am thinking about who's coming up. And with Lindor and Soto up, especially second and third, nobody out with Lindor. And we saw this on the game-winning sacrifice fly. You have a confidence with Francisco that even if it isn't a base hit up the alley, he's going to at least drive that run in. And so having a guy thrown out the plate in the seventh inning of a freaking tie game is incredibly frustrating and felt like, hey, handwriting's on the wall. This is going to be a bad loss. This is all shaping up to be a bad loss. And then Lindor has a chance to come through with a 2-out hit. He hits one up the middle, and there's DJ LeMahieu looking like he's a superstar again, making an incredible diving play where at first I thought Lindor beat it. The Mets didn't have a challenge left because they used the challenge on the play at the plate, which they shouldn't have. I know it's the seventh, so maybe the thought is we can ask for a crew chief review in the next 2 innings anyway. But he was out. Like, there was no question that Brett Beatty was out at the plate. So you're challenging it, but I don't know what you're really looking for. The Lindor one, though, turned out to not be a bad non-challenge if they had one because he was out. Great work, though. I was going to say by Reed Garrett. Great work by the baseball gods because that's who I give credit to in the eighth inning. Because Reed Garrett absolutely sucked. He was as bad as you can be while pitching a scoreless inning. You walk Cody Bellinger on 5 pitches. Goldie grounds into a double play. I guess I'll give Garrett credit. He got the ground ball. It was a ground ball right at Francisco Lindor that turned into an easy 6-4-3 double play. He walks Dominguez. He gives up a double to Anthony Volpe. He walks JC Escarra on 4 pitches, another spot where Boone is not being aggressive using his bench. And then DJ LeMahieu, who, like I said, has been the best player on the field, hits one 110 miles an hour right at Juan Soto. So I look at that eighth inning and I just point to the sky and I say thank you. Because no one did their job. It's not like the only thing Reed Garrett did well is after he issued his third walk, he realized, you know what? I'm just going to take my chances that if I throw the ball down the middle, I'll get good luck. And he got good luck because DJ hit the ball right at Juan Soto. So the Met bullpen, I'd say, did a wonderful job. And by wonderful, I mean Brazoban getting the 5 outs, 5 up, 5 down, including getting out of a 2-on, 1-out jam, cleaning up the Canning Mendoza mess of the 6th inning. Diaz, of course, did an incredible job pitching a 1-2-3 inning, protecting a 1-run lead. And Reed Garrett was there. And just to get off on a tangent that nobody cares about for 35 seconds, Reed Garrett gets the win in this game because he pitched the bottom of the 8th inning. This is where I believe the official score should be able to decide who the winning pitcher is, not really who the losing pitcher is, because obviously if you give up the run, that puts your team behind, you should get the loss. But wins should be an official scorer's decision because the worst pitcher for the New York Mets today was Reed Garrett. The worst. So if you allowed it to be in a scorer's decision, you would either give that win to Brazoban, which would be my answer, or you could give it to the starter. You could, but I'd give it to Brazoban. And we need to start that. A new world in which we decide who the winning pitcher is. Because sometimes it's not the guy who gets the win. Reed Garrett gets a win. He walked 3 guys. He gave up a double. He gave up a ripped ball that turned into a double play and a line drive right at the right fielder. But I'm not complaining because the New York Mets won. As far as the 9th inning was concerned, let's go through that. The McNeil fly out. Torrens draws the walk against Fernando Cruz. Immediately you go to Luis Angel Acuna. And then Brett Beatty gets the infield hit on the play that DJ LeMahieu could have made a great play on, but it wasn't going to be easy. Tyrone Taylor gets hit by a pitch, which was probably the biggest moment of the inning. And then Lindor on a 3-1 pitch does just enough in getting that ball just deep enough to left center field. And luckily, the guy tagging up is the fastest guy on your team in Luis Angel Acuna. If the guy on third base is Pete Alonso, we're talking about something different. So the Mets score their winning run, their 5th run in the last 3 games, on a medium depth flyout by Francisco Lindor. So the offense has not gotten going. The offense is slumping. But as I've said all season long, you take the freaking wins and you run with it. This offense is too good to be held down this long. And eventually it will break out. And I'm going to give you a really weird prediction. I think they're going to hit Max Fried. And it's a weird prediction because you have an offense that's slumping. You probably have Starling Marte in the lineup on Sunday because he is usually DHing against the left-handed pitcher, which I don't think you have to be married to, but it seems like Carlos Mendoza is. And sometimes baseball is really funny and doesn't make any sense. And one of the ways it wouldn't make sense is Max Fried, who's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, being torched by a Met offense that's done nothing lately. As I say that, let me look at the career numbers against the immortal Max Fried and see if anything jumps out at us. Juan Soto's 9 for 27 with 2 RBIs. That's a 333 average. Pete Alonso, who has seen him the most, 10 for 36 with 2 home runs. That's a 278 batting average, 850 OPS. So pretty much follows his career numbers. Brett Beatty's 2 for 6. And Marte is 4 for 21. That's what I was looking for. Because here's what you do, Mendy, who's a loyal listener to the Rico, even if I have to criticize him despite the Mets having one of the best records in the National League. Here's what you do, Mendy. Brett Beatty's glove was so beautiful on Saturday afternoon. Reward him and say, you know what, Brett? I'm going to let you start against the lefty. This is a guy you've seen before in Max Fried. In fact, you're 2 for 6 against him. So not bad. You've had some success against him. I'm going to let you start against the lefty. And hey, come over here, Mark Vientos. How you doing? You had a day yesterday. You went 0 for 3, 2 strikeouts, a double play, but a sacrifice fly in which you just missed a big home run. I'm going to reward you. You're going to be the DH. Not really reward him. I'm playing him. So what I would do going into Sunday night's game is I would play Mark Vientos at DH and I'd play Brett Beatty at third base. And that may be something we'll have to get used to because Brett Beatty in this game on Saturday afternoon against the New York Yankees made a few really impressive defensive plays. The barehand play against Anthony Volpe in the second, and another really good play against Volpe in the fourth. He played some stellar defense. And since he's better defensively than Vientos, and since Beatty has been showing a pulse offensively, and since the Mets clearly don't have a DH right now, Jesse Winker's on the IL, and Starling Marte isn't hitting. The DH may have to be Mark Vientos. Now, I'm not declaring this has to happen every single day, but it should happen often now. It should happen until things are proven otherwise. Brett Beatty's defense earns him a start Sunday night against Max Fried. Let's get to some of your emails, and then I'm going to take my wife out for a beautiful dinner. TheRicoB@gmail.com. Dan writes, no more short porch bleep talk for the rest of the year. That thing was basically our 10th man out there between saving the run and DJ's line drive. That's a very good point by Dan. Soto, who is so used to playing that right field at Yankee Stadium, played the Volpe double perfectly in the 8th inning, which made sure that Dominguez didn't score from first. So I think 2 things happened here. Number 1, Soto used to playing right field at Yankee. And 2, the short porch, it being further in, allows that run not to score. The DJ line drive, I'm not sure about. Like, even if you're at Citi Field, I don't think Soto's that much deeper where he doesn't make that play. But that first one on the double by Volpe is a stellar point in the 8th inning. Number 2 from Dan, Lindor was making a beeline to the net negative before that sacrifice fly. Guy has only been on base twice in 9 plate appearances in front of Juan Soto this series, plus the error. You know who I thought was making a beeline to the net negative of this series before Saturday's game? Pete Alonso, not you, Hoff. Pete Alonso. But luckily, he responded with a 2-hit game, the double in the 8th inning that gets forgotten because they couldn't drive him in, and the RBI single in the 4th inning. More from Dan. He writes, there's no way Gary just forgot about Trent Grisham murdering us in 2022. How does he say that the last time he was on a national stage was Milwaukee? They clearly told him to erase it like a bad WWE storyline and pretend it never happened. The broadcast this weekend was Homer Central, even when Blevins proclaiming Edwin Diaz all the way back in the postgame. I don't know what was said in the postgame. Let me get to Gary's comment because I did hear that. There were two things Gary Cohen said today. One, I'm going to have fun with on Evan and Tiki on Monday, and that was him crapping all over Knicks fans for celebrating too much. If you didn't hear that, tune in Monday to Evan and Tiki. I'll have fun with that. But you're right. That was weird, that comment about Grisham, because I've said this a lot. I'm actually trying not to say it as much on the Fan. But when I think of Trent Grisham, all I could think about is 2022. All I think about is that wild card series. For Gary to bring up the misplay in the 19 wild card game is strange, because while it's big, it doesn't involve us. What involved us was 2022. Clayton Caldwell, 2 outs, runner on second, and Lindor is bunting. WTF. Yeah, that was a weird one. I don't like it. Runner on second, 2 outs. This was after the Tyrone Taylor double, and then Beatty was thrown out at the plate. That was a strange one. And it was a real bunk because the count was 0-1, and he actually made contact, and it went foul. I don't know if he was thinking, you know what? I want to give Soto his moment. That's probably not the case. That's probably fan fiction. But he lays the bunt down, and it works. This first and third 2 outs. Here comes Juan Soto, and Juan Soto has a chance for his, Met moment. That did not work out, though. That did not work out. Bruce writes, when do we start worrying about the lack of hitting? It's a great question, because their offensive numbers are very average, and this is an offense that needs to be a lot better. I'm still not fully worried. I get frustrated on games like this, and I get frustrated over the last 3 days, but I wouldn't say fully worried. The when's a tough one to answer, because when you least expect it, and I think this works with all of us, I will come on the Rico and say, hey, I'm worried. Now, that may not be the same day that Pete's worried or the same day any of our listeners are worried, but I think we all get to that worry meter at a different time. But I'm making you this prediction right now. They're going to hit Max Fried. That's going to be the breakout performance. I don't know if they're going to win, because the Yankees could very well pound David Peterson too. It may be a two-way street. We may see the opposite of Saturday's game and a lot of runs scored. But I think the combination of that's baseball, Susan, but also the familiarity. The Mets have seen Max Fried a lot from all his time in the National League East, and there are guys in this lineup that have good numbers against him. I was giving you Soto's 9 for 27, McNeil's 10 for 31. Lindor's got terrible numbers, by the way, 3 for 28, which is a 107 average. Beatty's 2 for 6. Alvarez is 1 for 4, not much of a sample size. Pete's 10 for 36. Guys on the Mets, everybody who is on the Met roster, a combined 242, 642 OPS against Max Fried. It's not great numbers, but they've seen him before. So I will give you that little baseball prediction. I think they're going to hit Max Fried on Sunday. We will do a Rico Brogna following Sunday's game. We'll hand out the Rico I'm the Man Now star of the series, as well as the net negative. But it is a rubber game after the Mets respond with a big Saturday afternoon win. Any thoughts? You can always email us, thericob@gmail.com, thericob@gmail.com. Hope you enjoyed this little instant reaction to the Rico Brogna. If you're listening on Saturday, enjoy the rest of your night. I'm going to try to. And if you're consuming this on your Sunday, enjoy your Sunday. Sunday Night Baseball, Mets, Yankees, the rubber game. Let's go. Thank you for listening to Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.